Hello and welcome to the Skydival channel, and today we're going to be going over the best PCs you can build that'll take advantage of all of the Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals coming up. So if you clicked on this video, that means you want to get the best deal possible on a PC, and the only way you can do that is by completely building one. And the good news for you is that it's actually going to be really easy and simple. Reason being, with every single one of these build guides I'm going to be showcasing on my own personal website, pcbuilds.gg, will have their own dedicated video tutorial showing you how to put together any of these from start to finish. So on top of getting the best deals possible this Black Friday and Cyber Monday, thanks to my website and how it's able to pick out the lowest prices possible for all various components in each of these build guides, from the processor all the way down to the power supply. But you're also gonna get this really cool website that doesn't just show you all these PCs, but lets you actually find the perfect one for your situation. So if you want a build that is targeted towards a certain resolution or frame rate, you can play around with that. If you're looking for a certain preference for your CPU or GPU brand, you can do that, as well as these tags if you wanna play around with them and find a build not just for gaming, but also one for 3D modeling, also one for esports, so on and so forth. That is all to say, if you want to check out any of this stuff, I've got all these builds and my website, pcbuilds.gg, linked in the description down below to, again, make sure you get the best deals possible this Black Friday for building your PC this holiday season. So I want to kick things off with my $600 gaming PC. This is realistically going to be the cheapest you'll be able to get this Black Friday. Anything cheaper than this is not really going to be feasible, because for the CPU, we're going with the Ryzen 5 5500. It's $75 right now, but it's probably gonna be about $50 on Black Friday, so with an even better discount. This is a really great 6-core 12-threaded CPU that's gonna handle quite a bit of graphics cards you threw at it. I mean, here I've got the Intel Arc B750 paired with it, but if you wanted to go up to, say, like an RTX 5060 Ti or RX 9060 XT, there's gonna be no problems in pairing that with that CPU. But the Intel Arc B570 here is going to be great for 1080p gaming, although it can do a few games at 1440p actually reasonably well. I played safe and aimed for high frame rate 1080p gaming with a 920 by 1080 monitor with this PC, which, don't worry, I've got my recommended monitor for this build also in the peripheral section. So if you didn't know what monitor to get, I've also got you covered. Anyways, there's the graphics card. Here is another one you're welcome to check out, the Intel Arc A750. This is just an alternative. We could find a few this Black Friday for a really good discount, since it is technically a last generation card, maybe to $150, which would be really good. But otherwise, the rest is pretty straightforward. Just a B550 Micro ATX motherboard from AMD. This will work with the Ryzen 5 processor out of the box. 16 gigabytes of 3200 megahertz CAS latency 16 RAM, because the B550 motherboard and the old AM4 chipset can only work with DDR4 RAM. So again, no harm in choosing that. Also, it's way more inexpensive than DDR5 RAM, as you'll see later in the video. But for the SSD, we do have to make a slight concession, and that is we have to go with a DRAM-less SSD. I won't bother you too much on the specifics between DRAM and DRAM-less SSDs, but for the budget, we gotta go with this. But if you wanted a slightly more premium 1TB drive, check out my other build guides I'm about to showcase later in this video, where those are 1TB or 2TB drives with a DRAM controller. Then for the case, I mean, really any Micro ATX case you go with isn't gonna be dramatically different than the one that I ended up using for this build guide if you watch the YouTube video. However, the one that I've got linked, I'm a pretty big fan of. Okay, well, it should be an Okino's case, but actually it turns out here on Newegg, I've got the Cooler Master Elite 301, $67. Micro ATX, comes with 3 included ARGB fans. This is gonna be the exact same case layout as the one that I used in this PC build guide right here, but it's gonna offer better fans. So I'd go with that case. And then all you need for this build is a 550 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. Really straightforward. And again, this is just gonna be a really great value $600 gaming PC for those of you who are on a tight budget this holiday season. That is certainly gonna be exponentially better than any cheap pre-built you decide to compare this against on any marketplace you look at. But now let's get into some of the PCs you guys are probably looking at building. So here's my $800 gaming PC. This one is centered around the Ryzen 5 8400F, although you are completely welcomed to look at the Ryzen 5 7500F if you want. The 8400F is gonna be cheaper but slower, whereas the 7500F is gonna be faster. Both are the same 6-core 12-threaded CPU, other than a difference in L3 cache. Just comes down to how much you wanna spend. no harm in choosing either of those. But for the GPU choice, and this is what I was really impressed with in this build video here, was the Intel Arc B580. For only $250 right now, which is certainly gonna go on a discount this Black Friday, you can get entry-level 1440p gaming on 90% of PC games, above 60 FPS, and heck, even into the 100 FPS range, depending on the game. I was really impressed with this graphics card. There was only one driver-related thing I was unhappy with, and that wasn't in regards to gaming performance, that wasn't in regards to compatibility, black screens, or anything like that. It was just when I decided to record my games using OBS, I had to disable HAGs in Windows for OBS to properly work. That was my only holdup. Intel drivers have come a pretty long way, and that's why I'm comfortable recommending them even in this mid-range gaming PC build. But if you want to look at the AMD side, there is going to be a really good discount on the Radeon RX 9060 XT 8GB. Right now on Amazon, I know this shows up as $270, but there's a $250 card available from Gigabyte that's a really, really good price. And between the two right now, yeah, the 9060 XT will be faster than the B580, but it will come with less VRAM. Both are going to be great though, and certainly better choices than the RTX 5050 and the RTX 5060. Both of those I don't recommend picking up for a gaming PC build this Black Friday. Then for the motherboard though, we have to go up a generation from AM4 to AM5. So we have a B650M motherboard here, just for the budgetary reasons. I mean, you can go with an ATX motherboard, just note you're gonna need an ATX size case since this build guide uses a micro ATX PC case. But in regards to storage, again, we have to settle for a DRAM-less controller for budgetary reasons. If you want to get a DRAM-enabled 1TB drive, check out my $1,000 build guide, which we're going to cover up next. But for the RAM, this is where budget's going to become a little interesting because I have 32 gigabytes of 6000 megahertz RAM. Right now, this is selling for about $200 as of recording this video, but come the day of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, we could see DDR5 RAM kits go for a $50 discount. That's my prediction. It's still gonna be fairly high, but these prices we'll probably see this Black Friday are gonna be the best we'll see for DRAM for a while. So get used to it after this holiday season. And then for the power supply, all you need is a 650 watt 80 plus bronze. Don't need anything complicated for that Ryzen 5 and Arc B580. And this is gonna be a really great entry-level 1440p gaming PC or a very, very high frame rate competitive 1080p gaming PC if you wanna play games like Fortnite, Valorant, Marvel Rivals, any of those high FPS games, but restricted to 1080p. And now we have the $1,000 build guide, which is to say, if you've been enjoying this video, please give it a like. We need it. Anyways, for the CPU, Ryzen 5 7500F is what I recommend at the minimum. But if you want to spend a little bit more, there is the Ryzen 5 9600X. This is surely going to go on a discount to about $150 this Black Friday, so it won't be that much more than a 7500F. So I'd pick that up over the 7500F. But in doing so, you have to get a B850 motherboard because that will work out of the box with the Ryzen 9000 CPU. It wouldn't work out of the box with a B650 board, hence why we have a B850 board for the build guide here. But for the graphics cards, I'm giving you two options. If you want to save a little bit of money, consider the Intel Arc B580 or the Radeon RX 9060 XT 8GB. But what I tested in this build guide here on YouTube was the 9060 XT 16GB. And that is a very nifty little card for only about $350, which will see a discount this Black Friday. To what degree, I'm unsure, but it's bound to go on some sort of discount. But this is going to be even better positioned for entry-level 1440p gaming, even more so than the B580, because this does have a bit more extra VRAM and a bit more oomph in terms of processing power. So I'd say it's definitely worth the additional $100 over the B580 if you can afford that. Otherwise, everything else is pretty straightforward. Just pick up whatever RAM you can. But for the storage, here's a 1TB M.2 SSD that has a DRAM controller, like this high-quality SK Hynix SSD. Then for the case, we actually don't have a link for some reason. I guess the Lian Li Vector V100 is getting bought out constantly, but you can realistically choose any ATX PC case you want. Because again, for the motherboard, I have an ATX motherboard, and any ATX PC case will work with this build. Even if you decide to go a little bit overkill with the CPU cooler and get like a 360mm water cooler, it'll still fit in most ATX PC cases. Then for the power supply, don't need much for the CPU and GPU combo, and that is the I think really good $1,000 build. Of all the ones we covered so far, this one is probably gonna go the farthest in terms of performance per dollar. In my opinion, a little bit more so than the 800 and 600 since these have some limitations. But now let's cover probably the best build overall in terms of budget, the performance, and the hardware that you're getting. Because beyond this, in my opinion, you are greatly overspending, which I very much exaggerate in the build guide videos for the $1,500 and the $2,000. Not to spoil things. So for the best $1,200 build, same CPU choices as the last one, but for the GPU, and these are gonna be the main differences, consider either the RX 9070 or the RTX 5070 graphics card. These, in my opinion, are gonna have all the processing power you'd ever need for high frame rate 1440p gaming. I've tested the big brothers to each of these graphics cards, the 9070 XT and the 5070 Ti, and I'm letting you know right now, they are like too fast. Like, sure, if you wanna be prepared for the next GPU apocalypse, you can spend extra, but for right now, and even for many years into the future, the 9070 and the 5070 are gonna be very well equipped. I like the 9070 a little bit better because it has more VRAM, more computational performance, and in terms of ray tracing performance, it's on par with the 5070. So it's a pretty great value proposition all around for below $600. But otherwise, the rest of the build is pretty much straightforward. You've got a B850 motherboard, 32 gigabytes of 6000 megahertz RAM, depending on what you can get. Same 1 terabyte drive, another ATX case, depending on what you can find and what you like. But for the power supply, beef things up to a 750 watt 80 plus gold, and you will be golden. Now here we have the $1,500 gaming PC, and this is the build guide where I famously said at the very end of it at the conclusion, it was pointless to build this PC because it's too damn fast, and you should just build the $1,200 build that I covered just now. But for those of you who want to do 4K gaming, or I don't know, you have a 1440p ridiculously high refresh rate monitor and you want to max that thing out, this is the build for you, although I think it's a little bit excessive. Same CPU choice, again, the 9600X, any 6-core Ryzen CPU is going to be very capable in handling higher end GPUs. There won't be any bottlenecking. I literally tested it in this build guide in a CPU bound game like Counter-Strike 2, and at 1440p, we were getting well into the 300 to 400 FPS range. So I don't want to see any bottlenecking comments because there are none for any of these build guides. But if you wanted to spend a little bit more, I think the 7700X is one to definitely look at this Black Friday because it's gonna go on a good discount. But here are the GPU choices, and these are just, they're the best from AMD and NVIDIA. So we have the 9070 XT. This is gonna go on a discount this Black Friday by about $20 to $30 from what we can see early on right now at Micro Center. So look forward to that. That's gonna be a ridiculously good price. The GeForce RTX 5070 Ti right now is sitting at 700 bucks, which is $50 below MSRP. We are unsure if it's gonna go any lower. Micro Center, I think, has a 5070 Ti for 680 bucks, so that might be the best you'll find this Black Friday. So you might find one for about $20 less, but who knows, by then, stock for all those GPUs could dry out. But in terms of performance, I wanna see zero complaints. These will run everything and anything, even the Radeon GPU is gonna run ray tracing at 1440p and 4K way better than you think. Because AMD made really big strides in ray tracing performance this generation with all of their RX 9000 GPUs. So either of these are gonna be overkill for 1440p. And I think they're better suited for entry-level 4K gaming. But again, these are just ridiculous options for graphics cards. Motherboard choice, still gonna be about the same, B850. Again, find whatever RAM you can, hopefully. But for the SSD, we can move it up to a 2 terabyte drive, which you'll definitely notice, allowing you to store more games onto your PC. Then for the case, whatever ATX case you like, I was a fan of the 3500X that I used in that build guide, and it seems to have good availability, so that might be a good case to pick up. But for the power supply, we gotta take it up one more notch to an 850 watt 80 plus gold unit. And yeah, this is too much in my opinion. Just build my $1,200 one. But I need to round things out with the highest end build guide available, and that's this $2,000 gaming PC. Let's just get into it. 9800X3D, best CPU on the market other than a 9950X3D. If you want to get that 16 core, 32-threaded CPU, you're welcome to. Just this is plenty. This is more than enough. Then for the GPU, admittedly, I have the 9070 XT and 5070 Ti again for budgetary reasons, but if you wanted to kick things up to an RTX 5080, you're welcome to do that. Hopefully there's a good deal for it this Black Friday. I just think for your dollar, the 5070 Ti is gonna be much more worth it, hence why I have it in this build guide and not the 5080, because there's only about a 10% performance difference between both of the cards, but right now, about a $300 difference in price. Then for the motherboard, you know, same old B850, you really don't need X870. You're not gonna be overclocking these CPUs. Modern day CPUs are already clocked so high stock. There's no need to get an X870 unless you're a media content professional who needs a lot of M.2 drive storage on your motherboard. You know, same story for RAM, same story for storage. For the case, I'm a fan of the Montech King 95 Pro that I use in this build guide. You can reuse it for these new and updated components since this build guide is about 2 years old, but still is gonna be the same as if you were to put any of these components into that PC case nowadays. It's not really gonna change much. And then for the power supply, we can still use an 850 watt 80 plus gold. If you wanna get a 1000 watt, so be it. And yeah, this could also handle an RTX 5090, just I highly doubt you'll be able to find one this Black Friday for a decent price because that GPU will never go on discount. But otherwise, those are my favorite builds from PCBuilds.gg. And again, I have so many others you are welcome to play around with these different sliders and tags on my website, which all of that again can be found in the description down below. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and this is the Scattervolt channel, signing out.